Sister Khadija, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you very much for coming to see us today.
Thank you.
I'd love to hear how you made this journey to Islam.
Yes, so I've been on this journey for, I think, 24 years now. It's coming that I took my Shahada.
Was it here in Preston?
No, well, I took my Shahada here in Preston, but I actually grew up in Chorley, a little town, village town, just about 30 minutes away in Chorley. So I grew up in Chorley. There's not many Muslims in Chorley, and this was in the 90s, so there was very little. There was a small Pakistani community, a few Indians, but they stayed to one side of town. So the part of the town that I grew up on was all very English people. My school was completely full English Christians. I think we maybe had one Chinese person in the school. So I didn't mingle with any Muslims. I didn't even know what Islam was growing up.
Subhanallah.
Or anything like that. And I used to go to a Church of England school, and with the school, you have to go to the church. And when I used to go to the church, I used to learn stories of the prophets. And I wasn't a religious person growing up, but I did like going to the church. I did like learning the stories. And we used to go there for the nativity play and stuff like that. And also in the area that I grew up, it was quite a poor area that I used to live in. But we used to have people coming in who used to take the children to Sunday school as well. So the minibus will come and you'll get on the minibus and you'll go across just like a field kind of thing, but the other area, and you would go to the church and that. But learning all this and going through this stage as a child, I believe that, Allah was with me, and I wasn't a religious person. My family's not religious at all. But through going through the school and going to the church and enjoying having that passion for the stories of the prophets, that's what caught me as a child. We used to go into the school library, and they used to have a Bible, children's Bible with illustrations in. We used to open them up, and we used to, I remember in the middle part there used to be one of Satan. And that's the one picture that used to get us all as kids. We used to go look at it and say, oh, wow, look at this monster, of Satan and that. And
who saw him?
I know. But we used to, it was something that we was all fascinated in. We must have only been about 8, 9 years old when we used to go into the library to look at this children's Bible and that. And then also when I was in primary school, I used to go to the church for confirmation classes. So they used to get the children to come on a Saturday morning, and we used to go there. They used to bribe us a little bit with fish and chips and a can of Coke. If we'd come, then you get to do this, and you get to play hide and seek and stuff like that. But it was something for the children to do on a Saturday, and that. And it was nice, they used to put videos on of Jesus, and we used to watch it. Peace be upon him, and that's as far as it went. I used to pray to God, like when troubles used to go through growing up, because my mum and dad used to fight a lot. My dad was an alcoholic, and it was hard for my mum. But I always remember praying to God and asking God, to help me, and just make things okay. But that's as far as my faith went. My faith didn't go any further than that, if that kind of makes sense.
And you were going through tough times.
Going through tough times, but it was funny because I always prayed to God. I never prayed to Jesus. And I would never have said that I was a religious person. Religion, even though I liked the stories of the prophets and I went to church, I would never have classed myself as a religious child or anything like that. My family wasn't religious at all. And then Mum and Dad got divorced when I was about 12 years old.
Oh.
And
Did you have other brothers and sisters?
I had one sister then. So we had to stay in a refuge And then we moved to the other part of town where the Muslims was.
Oh,
And
so that's when you
so this
became acquainted.
This is when I kind of just started to be introduced to Islam. And I never knew what Islam was. I used to think it was a bit like Hinduism, you know, lots of different gods and that. Didn't have any interests in it until
Though nowadays in school, in religious education, they do teach
yes,
pupils about different religions.
It's really funny you say that, because in year 7, when I must have been about 11, 12 years old, I've still got it at home, and it's a printout of how Muslims pray. And it has my name on, and it says year 7. And I say, I must have learnt this in school, but I don't even remember learning about it. And that, and then when we moved across town, when we was playing outside and that, I used to play with some of the Muslim children, and then they used to go to madrasa. Oh, we can't play now, we've got to go to madrasa.
On Sundays?
And no, on Monday to Friday. So
after they come back from school?
Yeah, so they used to go to madrasa.
In the evening, yes.
Yeah, and that. So we used to be like, me and my other friend, we used to be like, oh, you know, why do you have to go to madrasa and that? And they used to say little things, you know, about the religion. And that at the beginning, they used to say little things. I remember one thing that one of the girls used to say to us was, and we just used to think it was hilarious, like, don't stand under the tree because the jinns will wee on you. And that was the first thing that I think I remember anyone telling us anything about Islam. I was a bit like, okay. But then I think as I got closer with my friends, the Muslim friends, and they started, and I think the older ones as well. So I must have been about 14 years old at this time. And then somebody told me about the prophets and about what Allah is, who's Allah, and everything, and that it's the same God, and that you've got the same prophets. And I think that is what really caught me.
Because you already knew something about the prophets.
I knew about the prophets, and I knew about God from my childhood. But then when they told me about Islam having the same God and the same prophets, it just kind of made sense. I don't think there was ever a point of me even questioning it. When I was told about it, it was like, well, yeah, that makes sense. There's God and there's the prophets. And then I was gifted with the Quran. I think I was about 15 years old, and I was gifted to the Quran from one of my friends. And I remember reading it, and I think over that year or so, they'd had Ramadan, and I liked the fact of Ramadan, fasting and everything. And there was something in me that just I just felt like this is a way of life. What this Quran is telling me, and how everything just makes sense. I don't know, in Christianity, it didn't click with me. I didn't find that connection or that belonging to it. But when I found out about Islam, I just felt like, yeah, I want to be a Muslim.
Oh, at that young age?
At that young age, yeah. And I said to myself, well, if I want to be a Muslim, I have to learn to see whether I can fast. And I think that's what's attracted me as well to Islam, the actions. Because being a Christian, all I saw was the singing in the church or the Sunday school, and there wasn't much more to it. But when I saw Islam and you had to fast and you wore the hijab and you dressed, you know, modestly, and there was no drinking and, you know, there was no dating, I think all that attracted me. So I said to myself, right, I'm gonna be a Muslim. I remember telling my science teacher in year 11, saying to her, I'm gonna be a Muslim.
Why did you tell her?
Because she had worked in Saudi Arabia. So because she's worked in Saudi Arabia, she knew something about it. And she's like, Julie, you're not going to be a Muslim. And I said to her, I'm gonna be a Muslim. I'm telling you, I'm gonna be a Muslim. And so I used to, when fasting came around, I remember trying to fast and doing the fasting. And it was lucky at that time because it was in the winter months as well. So it was a lot easier. I think if it was in the summer months, I might not have done it. And everything. And I I remember at school, though, I used to get a lot of racist remarks from people in school.
Against you?
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, you want to be a Paki,
Oh, because
and
of
stuff
your
like this.
association
Because people knew that now that I want to be a Muslim.
And they, of course, they associate Islam only with the Pakistanis.
Yes, because that's all they're used to seeing. And I think up in the northwest as well, especially like Chorley and Preston, there never used to be many Arabs, Muslims here. It used to be just the Asians from Pakistan, India, that kind of was up here. So I used to get that a lot at school and everything. And it was difficult going through school and making that change, because my friends who I was hanging around with, they saw the changes in me and they seemed to think that I was a bit boring now. Oh, you don't want to do the fun stuff now. Come on, let's go and do this and let's go and do that. And I would be like, no, I don't want to do that now. And I was trying to make that change in myself to be a more sensible person, because I was a bit of a tomboy growing up, and I was always like mischievous and doing mischievous things and that.
That's why the teacher wasn't,
yes,
wasn't optimistic.
I think that's why she definitely was thinking, there's no way you're going to be, a Muslim and that. But for me, I was just so determined I wanted to be a Muslim, but I didn't want to take my Shahada yet unless I could wear the hijab, I could dress modestly and stuff like that. So I started implementing it slowly into
How long did it take you?
When I was 17. When I was 17, one of my friends got in touch with a lady here in Preston and arranged for me to come and take my Shahada. And I came here and I remember meeting another revert sister. She'd been a Muslim, I think, for about 2 or 3 years, and I met her, and I was so like, wow, there's another revert, because I don't remember at that age ever coming across like somebody who wanted to be
Probably
a Muslim.
You thought you were the first ever.
Yeah, and there wasn't internet as well around, so you didn't have that social media of being able to see other Muslims.
No networking.
No, there was nothing. So all I got to see was that small community in Chorley. And then I thought to myself, this is brilliant. And when I actually took my Shahada that day, it was one of the ladies. She was a teacher at the Islamic school. So there's an Islamic school in Preston, Muhammad Zakaria School, and they also did madrasa in the evening. So they started doing a madrasa for reverts. So they said to me, do you want to come to it? And that'll be 5 till 7, Monday to Friday and everything. So I said, yeah, I would love to.
Were you still with your mother at the time?
I was still living at home. So I was 17. When I left school, I went to work in a care home as well, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go on to nursing and that. So I went into working into a care home. And I remember like the transition of being in the care home as well, because I went in as Julie with no hijab. And then like near to the end of it, I was Khadija now and I'm wearing the hijab. And it was so funny because the little old ladies used to say to me, why are you wearing that on your head? Have you been washing your hair? Have you got the flu? And I'm like, no, I'm a Muslim now. I want to be a Muslim and I'm Muslim. And everything. And they used to be so intrigued in wanting to listen to the story and everything. And I used to think that, you know what, if I give dawah to them, then inshallah, they will become Muslim, or they will know something about Allah.
So what was your mother's response?
My mother thought that I was gonna be cuckoo. She was like, what? Like she couldn't understand it. Like, you've got all this freedom to
why
do
are you
what you want.
restricting yourself?
Why are you covering yourself? Why would you want to do that? And it was a little bit more difficult because at this time my mum had a new partner. And he wasn't happy about me wearing the hijab. And because he wasn't married, I knew that I had to wear the hijab in front of him. And everything. And it did actually get quite physical.
Oh, really?
At home with him. So then when I turned to 18, I decided that now it's time to get married. I wish in a way I didn't get married. I wish that I'd actually studied the deen. And that, but I think back then it was like, right, you're a Muslim now, come on, you need to get married kind of thing. So I did join a matrimonial magazine again, like there was no internet or anything like that of trying to find someone to marry and everything. And I ended up getting married quite young at 18 years old.
Perhaps you also wanted to be delivered from the home environment.
Yes, definitely. It was very hard.
Had you not been treated badly, you might not have.
No, I don't believe I would have. But the fact of, yes, the home was horrible, you know, to be in that
So
home.
in terms of friends, a complete change.
So a complete change of friends. All my friends, I had to, and you know, it didn't worry me because I just felt like this is my journey. This is what I want to do now, and I want to go down this path. And if you can't be happy for me, then really you're not my friends.
The problem is the social lives. Non-Muslims have a pattern of social life that Muslims don't fit in.
Yeah.
And because you don't fit in, they cannot relate to you anymore.
No. And that's exactly what it was, because my friends now are going through that journey of the drinking, it's nightclub life, and that's what they want you to indulge in as well. And when you're saying to them, nah, I don't want to do that, and everything, and I don't think I found it difficult to say no. I think I got to a point in my life before I took the Shahada and that, where it didn't interest me all that no more, which is, you know, like you say, it's amazing, because that's how people see it as freedom and go out and enjoy yourself. And it isn't like we had an alternative to go and have fun, because there wasn't anything for revert. I would say the thing that actually got me through it was the fact that I went to the revert classes, and going through the revert classes, I made some really good friends with some of the sisters.
Now you belong to a new community.
Yes. So I had my own new pack of friends, even though there was a lot older than me. There was one sister I really connected with, and I think she was a good 15 years older than me, and she was a revert. She had a little girl and everything, and we became like that, you know. She was like my big sister, and we used to have, you know, our time together, and we used to go to the bookstore in Blackburn and go and get our books, you know, and come back and read our books and just learn together, and that was really nice.
Is it easier nowadays for women to convert to Islam, or is
I would say so.
It is.
I would say so, because back then you didn't really have any support from anybody, and even if you did have support, it was like the support to fit into one culture. People expected you to fit into their culture. So for me, I was expected to fit into the Asian culture, and I don't think there was the Muslim culture themselves. There wasn't experience as well in knowing how to bring on a revert and her identity kind of thing. You know, like I remember being told, like, you know, you can only eat curries and it has to be spicy food and all this. And this is coming from somebody who's never eaten spicy food, because there was no halal shops neither. There was absolutely no halal shops that sold halal English food. You know, now you can get them all in the shops, you know, English food that's halal.
True.
And that, but back then you couldn't. And
so you had to eat curry.
It was either that, or I remember being at home, and when I was at home I had to start cooking my own food, and obviously I was never taught how to cook or anything like that. My mum did it all. So now that she's cooking and I can't eat the food, I have to do that by myself now. So I remember I just used to kind of live on takeaways. If I was impressed and I was okay, I could get a takeaway that was halal. But if I was at home, used to be like pizza or just very basic food, and that you could eat and everything, because you couldn't. There was no shops available for you to get proper food, and you're not gonna cook a big meal yourself when you're only, you know, a young teenager.
Yeah, true. How is the revert community at the moment? I mean, I've heard from the brothers that in this mosque in Preston, they're quite involved. There's
a lot of reverts now, and it's beautiful, because there's more and more people becoming reavers, I said daily. We just had a young sister take Shahada on Saturday. So that was unexpected.
Recently?
Yeah, here, on Saturday, yeah. So, alhamdulillah, she was, she's been interested in Islam for some time, she said. And one of the brothers who's a taxi driver spoke to her. She said she was interested into Islam. And he passed me her number. I texted her. She didn't reply back until the Saturday. The Saturday when she replied back, I said to her, we've got to bring a dish. So we do bring a dish here, where we all come together to help each other. And I said, why don't you not come? She said, I would love to do that. I've really wanted to go to the masjid, but I've been too scared to go. So she came. And then I said to her, she was like telling me all this stuff that she was interested in Islam. So I said to her, well, if somebody asked you now what faith you are, what would you say? She said, I will say I don't have one. I said, but you do because you believe in Allah. I said, so what's stopping you from becoming a Muslim? She said, well, I don't know. I just don't know how to do it. I said, well, then you can say your Shahada today if you want to. And she was like, yes, please, I want to say my Shahada.
And she's been thinking about it for a while.
Yes, she's been thinking it for a few years, actually, she said.
Oh, really? We should interview her then.
Yeah. Yes, I did ask quite a few sisters, but they was a bit shy, to come and...
Well, I think it might be a good idea to send them the playlists.
Yes,
for,
definitely.
Previous episodes, and they can see for themselves.
Yes.
There is nothing really frightening about it.
No.
And it's a work of dawah.
Alhamdulillah. Yes, definitely.
And I'm really grateful that you managed to come today.
Yes, alhamdulillah. And I would say as well that my mum, today, my mum, inshallah, one day she will become a Muslim, inshallah, because...
Is she interested?
She is, but it's just, you know what, she always comes to my house, bless her. She's always like, she will always make sure that things are halal for us.
Oh.
She will make sure it's halal for the children. She always brings gifts on Eid Day and that. And she understands and respects that I'm a Muslim. And she knows that, my faith plays a big part now in my relationship with my mum on honouring her and taking good care of her and everything like that.
And she probably can appreciate that.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, I think so. She says, out of all my sisters, because I've got another younger sister, she said, out of all of them, you're the one who I can rely on. And, that will come out. So, inshallah.
Yeah, because in Islam, the parents come after God. And whether they are Muslim or non-Muslim, you have to keep taking care of them,
yes,
and be
definitely.
kind to them.
And I think that's a beautiful way for parents to see as well, because I know what media says about Islam. I think they just think that when we become Muslim, that, whoa, what's this foreign thing that you wanted to come and, the terrorists and the this and the that. It's not good. But then when you actually start showing them through the actions, the beauty of Islam, I think that really is a turn of heart for them to see that, that Islam is actually...
We make dua for your mother, inshallah.
Ameen.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Surely has.
Thank you.
Thank you.